Hello and welcome to the Plant-Based Runners podcast. I'm Ellie Busby, registered nutritionist, founder of Vojo Health, and your host today. Today I'm speaking with world-class champion and vegan athlete Kate Strong, who is an all-round inspiring woman, plant-based activist, and much more. So we talk about her journey into being plant-based, the difficulties she's faced in her athletic journey, how her projects in climate activism, and much more. So if you're looking to be inspired in your vegan athlete journey, then definitely listen to this episode. On with the show. Kate, so let's go straight into who you are and what you do and why. So tell me more about yourself and what you do.
So it's a great question. I never know how to describe myself, but I suppose it's a 3-time world record holder in cycling, ex-world champion in triathlon. I used to be an aerospace engineer, and today I consult and coach individuals to reach peak performance, but also to do that sustainably.
That is amazing, and you managed to pack it in quite a small couple of sentences as well. So that's impressive.
Thank you.
You've obviously practiced. One of your main things is that you are a plant-based athlete. So tell me more about that. How long have you been plant-based, and why is this important to you?
Yeah, I've started to forget to put it in my bio, if you want, which is a great sign because it means it's now becoming my DNA. I've been plant-based for, I guess, about 8 years, but it was sort of transitional. So it wasn't like a date that I have to celebrate, but it's around this month that I transitioned to being plant-based. And to me, it's fundamental to everything that I do. So I'm motivated for it. I'm also Reiki master, so with the spiritual side, making sure that compassion is on my plate as much as it is in my actions. The sustainable aspect, by just not eating meat, I know that my greenhouse gas emissions are reduced, and also for my health. I mean, I've just turned 43 and I feel as good as I used to when I was 23. So I know that my life is also sort of prolonged a little longer thanks to the food I eat as well. So now it's just become everything I do and all the reasons why as well.
Have you seen any impact of transitioning to a plant-based diet on your sport performance?
Yeah, I mean, that was the primary reason I did it initially. I was running, but I noticed that my asthma and my lungs were holding me back. Like I kept wheezing and I couldn't go any faster. So even though my recovery times were really quick and I could, get a few runs in every day, I couldn't keep growing that speed or the distance because my lungs were just super weak. And I owned a guest house at the time, so it was great because I met so many random, weird and wonderful personalities. And the people who really sort of I clicked with kept saying to me, "You're eating too much cheese, you're drinking too much milk. That's why you can't run faster." And I didn't believe them. So one day I just sort of decided to give it a complete go. Gave it all up overnight, and within 5 days I was running cleaner. Like I wasn't wheezing, there was no phlegm, there was none of that sort of burny bile in my throat, but I was also running faster as well. And then I noticed sort of side effects as well, like my skin cleared up. I used to have like clusters of spots every now and then, every month. That stopped. My eyes got bluer, so I was releasing toxins. It was just an amazing transition into seeing how my body was thriving by me not putting that toxin in my body first up. And then I naturally gave up very quickly red meat because, again, I started to consciously see the difference of when I ate it and when I didn't. And then any animal products completely went as well. So for me, it's a complete game changer. I feel better. My skin regenerates quicker. And performance-wise, I'm able to recover and deliver higher levels as well.
That's an amazing story. So you said it was people telling you that actually you're eating too many animal products, but what was the final turning point? What really made you think, okay, now I'm going to do it?
I don't really know if there was an actual turning point, because I had to Google what I was, because I used to go out with my friends in town and I'd list what I didn't eat and we'd find it. And we went, what am I? And so we're like, what is somebody who doesn't eat meat, doesn't eat fish, and doesn't eat dairy? And I was like, well, I suppose I'm a vegan. I wonder what that will be like. So, and then, I think the thing that compounds it is when we start opening up our heart to realizing the impact that holds. The realization what I was feeding regarding the factory farms. And one of my bicycle rides, because I was obviously training in triathlon, it would pass this two zones. One was a open tip for rubbish, and one was a chicken farm. And the chicken farm smelt worse than the open tip for rubbish. And it was like, why on earth would I put those poor, beautiful animals through that? And two, why on earth would I then put them on my plate? And so that then was like, I cannot keep feeding, quite literally, those type of actions and be a part of that system. So even though my body felt better, emotionally, that compounded it by realizing that I needed to make sure my actions were in alignment with my values. And that was definitely to never sort of eat meat and endorse it again.
I once went to an organic free range chicken farm. I mean, I didn't like organize it with anyone. I just kind of went to have a look because I'd never seen one. And, the only place I'd ever seen chickens is when people have a few in their back garden, and that's kind of idyllic and lovely and beautiful, and they have nice lives. But when I saw this chicken farm, this egg farm, I was really shocked because this was free range, it was organic, and still, like, they had a horrible environment. They just had this this kind of patch of sand, of like just bare ground, nothing to shelter them, nothing surrounding, like no. I mean, chickens really need like trees and bushes and things, and they love an environment where they can hide, where they can actually stand in trees and like shrubs and stuff. And they didn't have anything. And because it was just completely open wasteland, all of them were standing on top of each other in their big pen because they didn't want to be out there because it's dangerous. Well, they felt like it's dangerous. So they had space, but they weren't using it. And they were just as a result, in horrible conditions, like just pooing on each other and stuff. And it was just awful. And then at that point I was like, okay, so the regulations don't even create an environment where the animals are happy, even the best regulations. And yeah, that was really a turning point for me in terms of how I felt about animal farming.
Yeah.
Especially chickens.
Yeah, I think more and more people need to see this because we're sheltered. Unless we proactively research and look at those activist movies that go undercover and show us, we don't know how our food is processed. Imagine if all our food was in a glass room. I think a lot of people would stop eating what is called the normal diet because we're just sheltered to seeing how animals are treated, sentient beings are treated, and then they're called dumb or stupid because we're putting them in an environment that stresses them out. I know you've just come back from Ukraine. If an alien came into the world and judged humanity on how those Ukrainians were reacting to their environment, they would call us dumb and stupid as well because they're under stress. They're in their fight or flight and not bringing their best personality out. So why on earth are we judging and writing off these beautiful animals on that sort of moment when they're put in a very stressful environment? So I get my rant on sometimes. I don't always show it because for non-plant-based or vegan people, it does come across as quite judgmental. And I think humanity does need a bit of judging now and then. So thanks for giving me the space.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I like activist athletes, I guess you can call them, people who, like you, are proving that a plant-based diet or a vegan diet can actually get you to where you want to be, can help you reach your sport goals. And it's kind of a more positive movement where when people don't want to hear about the bad stuff, they want to ignore what's actually going on. Well, you can show them in a positive way how this change can help them. And that's really, really cool. And how important do you think these kind of this athletic activism is, and how can we encourage more of it?
I think it's actually becoming one of the most powerful means of activism that we can do. Because if we look at who our role models are, the vast majority of them are athletes. When Cristiano Ronaldo moved away the Coke bottle, the shares dropped instantaneously by a couple of $1 million. That's the power of one athlete and one athlete alone. So the more athletes can embrace the journey of their own activist within themselves, why they care about the oceans, why they want to support life on land, I think we'll be able to really hit a lot more people and really open up this conversation. There's a lot of movements.
Mm-hmm.
I know because the integrity of athletes, because I don't put myself in the category of Olympians and Paralympians, but because they're operating in that 1% game, I do know that they struggle with feeling hypocritical because they may fly to Tokyo. So how on earth can they talk about climate change because they know they're contributing to it through their flights? But there are charities and organisations who are giving them the platform to be able to answer those questions and say, we still care. And I suppose what I'm doing in my life, as you know, I've got this challenge coming up, is I'm pivoting away from competition into how I can engage communities to open up these conversations more to the people who haven't already transitioned, to the people still in that fuzzy, things aren't right, but we don't know what to do zone. So that's sort of what I'm doing myself, is stepping away from my records and into community engagement.
Tell me more about this challenge. How is it engaging the community?
Uh, well, it's next year, so it's going to happen in 2023. But I do have a practice week this July coming, and so next year's is called Challenge 3000. So I'm cycling 3,000 miles around the coastline of England, Scotland, and Wales, and I'm building my own bamboo bike to do it on. And I'm stopping at
That's so cool. Sorry.
I've got my pieces of bamboo downstairs and I'm looking at them going, how on earth is that going to become a bike? But, wish me luck, I'll find out this weekend because I'm building it. And yes, so I'm stopping at 30 different locations and putting on like a community group meeting to say, why is sustainability or environmental causes important to you and what can we do as a community? And so the legacy will be connecting those 30 communities, planting 3,000 trees, but also setting up hubs to keep supporting them in their transition. So I've been speaking to a few other plant-based athletes and activists around the UK, and they've created, like in wastelands, places where you can grow fruit and vegetables, so they can then cook for the community plant-based meals and share with them how easy it is to grow organic, but also cook these meals as well. So I'm really excited because I'm the piece of string now, I'm not the story. So I'll be connecting all these amazing activists and stories together. And where I'm cycling as well is what I call the red zone. Because if climate change continues the way it is, and if temperatures rise, which is now becoming more of a when rather than an if, so will the sea level. So where I'm visiting is going to be at risk of even being underwater. So these people are actually living in our climate red zone, and they're the ones who really need to take quite radical action and keep sharing why it's important the rest of us as a country get behind this to protect where they live. So I'm really excited to hear their stories and what they're doing, but also keep joining the pieces to learn together. We're not doing this alone. We have to work together. So that's what my Challenge 3000 is all about.
Kate, that is so inspiring. I can't believe I didn't even know about this before we talked. This is so cool. So, how can people follow this story of your journey around these 30 areas on your bamboo bike?
The best is to follow me on social media. I am terrible about sharing, so I make a public promise to start sharing more. But yeah, it's Kate Strong 01. That's on Instagram and all the other platforms. So I share regularly there. But if people want to get actively involved, just drop me a message, drop me an email, kate@katestrong.global, because it's not about me. We need hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people behind this. So if you want to get involved or arrange a beach cleanup, I can cycle to you and we can do it together, but we need people to be able to engage their communities and keep this going longer.
That's so cool. Are you also going to share on social media your building of your bamboo bike as well? Because if this is happening like this weekend, I want to see that.
I will, I promise. Yeah. I just have, I just have this block around sharing. I don't know what it is. I think I'm a bit scared about being judged. Again, that conversation I was saying about other athletes, that even though I'm doing my best, I know I could do more. And I don't want to really sort of people miss the point of what I'm doing to do the more. But yeah, so I'm working on my mindset as well to make sure I share a bit more.
Thank you. I mean, you're already doing a lot, so I don't think you need to be worried about doing more. So, but I know that's the kind of mindset that a lot of us have. So
Yeah.
I understand. What are the biggest challenges that you've faced as an athlete, or even as a vegan athlete?
Well, I was vegan and competing in Australia when I first took up sport and also became vegan. So that was back in 2014. And I lived in a village of 2,000. So veganism was like, I was the only vegan in the village, like quite literally. And nobody understood it. And I still, even to this day, have conversations with coaches about my iron levels being low, or my protein not being high enough, or me being at risk because I'm a woman and I'm also not having meat in my life. And I'm just, it's disheartening, but it also feels quite isolating as well. So the biggest challenge I have is educating people who are in authority positions, such as those coaches and trainers, to stop the assumption and just get better educated. We are learning a bit more about it. I've got a lot of side projects, but another side project of mine is to work in that training sphere to help coach the coaches, but also coach the athletes to know more. Like, as a vegan athlete, I had to know how much protein I needed. I never did before. We don't expect normal people who follow normal diets to know that. So my level of knowledge needed to be upgraded quite a lot, and to justify what I was doing. So that's the biggest challenge I have, is to get the coaches on board to just ask intelligent questions and support us in what's the right thing to do, rather than just always assume that I'm deficient somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, if we can educate coaches and people working with athletes, then we can get them to actually use the evidence to show athletes um, what can improve their performance and do it in a safe way. And some of the most harmful stories that you hear against veganism are people that didn't do it right and felt like they weren't getting everything they need. And you hear stories about some people who were in Game Changers then switching back. I mean, the film, because they were encountering issues or whatever. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're just not getting everything you need, and each person is different, right? And that's the same on any diet, not just a vegan diet. So it's just crucial to learn how to work with your body, and that coaches are not just giving general advice, but they're seeing what you need and how you can thrive.
Yeah, completely. And there's also, if you've been a meat eater or had meat, or your body's absorbed certain macro and micronutrients from one source for a long period of time, and you switch overnight, your gut microbiome isn't ready to digest or absorb what you've switched to. So there does need to be an element of transition. Not even if you choose overnight to never eat meat again because of ethical reasons, there does need to be a way of supporting your body through that, and expect a little bit of a dip. I know that when I trialed keto for a little bit, vegan keto, and I did go through a bit of a dip. I was quite lethargic and slow, but after that week or 2 week transition, I felt a lot better. So we do need to expect that downward turn, and not just bing, buoyant, bionic Kate running around like a monkey if she gave up everything overnight. So it's that education piece.
Yeah, as a nutritionist, you always recommend people that it's like 6 to 8 weeks before you can really expect to see big change in the output of a change in diet.
Mm.
So yeah, setting those expectations is another thing that's just hugely important. And it's difficult for motivation, right? Because when you make a big change to your diet or your life, you want to see instant instant changes in to encourage you to continue, but that's hardly ever the case. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I suppose for me, for my running, I was blessed because I suppose I did it accidentally, incrementally. So I did see the benefits,
Mm-hmm.
but I appreciate it's not the same for everyone. But yeah, and as a woman as well, I know we're both women, there's a lot less research out there for how it impacts us. So it's about finding also not just the data that's generic, it's also finding the data for our own body system as well and who we are genetically and making sure we follow that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I recently learned that women need less protein than what's recommended. So, as an athlete woman, we need about 1.1 grams per kilogram, where I always thought it was 1.4 grams per kilogram, but that's obviously for a man. So, we are still learning about our bodies. It's not a done deal, even with all that science data out there at the moment.
Yeah, and when we're talking about protein intake, yeah, it varies on gender, on your how much sport you're actually doing, whether you want to build muscle or not, your genetics.
Mm,
Like there are just so many factors, and the general advice is never optimal. And you're right, a lot of the research is on men, and let's not even talk about animal research. There's like so many people make nutritional recommendations based on animal research, and that is just insane to me because you just well, A, it's insane that we still do so much research on animals, and B, you can't even translate that into humans so much of the time. So yeah,
yeah,
the research landscape is quite abysmal sometimes, but it is improving, and we're seeing more research studies done in women now, which is really good.
yeah.
So, what would you say to women who want to um, maybe want to be more athletic or do more or compete more, but they just don't feel like they can? And I think a lot of the time that has to do with the fact that we're comparing ourselves to men, and men are much more prominent in the athletic world. So, what would you say to women to encourage them more?
I, the simple thing is to be the leader or the role model and the leader you want to be. If you can't see one, that means your daughter, your neighbour's daughter, and the next generation can't see one either. And even though it's scary and intimidating, we need to step up and overcome that fear. And there are people out there like that. So when I started to take action, the action was noticed by other women and other people, and then that small community and that group that I didn't think existed sort of materialized. So the world notices when we do things, not when we think about doing things. So for me, when I started running, it was 200 meters. I couldn't run further than the end of my driveway, pretty well, driveway and a little bit more. So I could still see my house when I stopped, bending over, like thinking I was going to die or vomit on my shoes. And then I had to walk home. And it grew slowly over that. So it's not about getting it right first time. It's about just putting on your trainers and starting. And if for me, the barrier at the beginning was my terribleness, how bad I was, and how slow and how far I couldn't run. So I used to run at night, hidden from my neighbours, so they couldn't see. So find a way that you can work to make sure that we can build confidence at the same time. But I think the most important thing is focus on progress, not perfection, and just go out there and start doing what you love.
Said like a true activist. Just find a way to start doing, stop thinking about it, and everything will work out along the way. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, what's one thing you would say to runners or athletes in general, or one recommendation you have that can improve their sport or their performance today, or like quickly?
I think the mindset is the mindset piece. Make sure that we focus on what we can learn from these experiences. It's not about the gold medal, it's about who we're becoming. So instead of judging ourselves on better or worse and always getting a PB, I think that's really unhealthy. Every run can't give you a faster growth metric. That's the mindset of a capitalist, and that's got us in this problem of today. We need to focus on sustainability and say, what lessons did I get from this run? Even if it was a slow run, even if I didn't run as far as I thought I could or wanted to, there are always lessons within that. So that's the thing that we need to focus on, rather than like smashing it on Strava and showing everyone how fast we are.
Yeah, I agree. I actually stopped using Strava about 2 years ago, and I have to say I enjoy running a lot more now I'm not on it. But I do miss the community aspect. So it's just about balancing that, isn't it? And just not, it is mindset. You're totally right. And is there anything else that you would like to tell people?
I think the one thing is, and I suppose I'm talking to myself as much as everyone else, embrace who we are. There's no excuses for what we're doing. We're doing our best with who we are today and what we've got as resources today as well. So be that in sport, be that in supporting our family, be that in our activism, like be proud of what we're doing and grow from that, because sometimes we are our worst enemies. And those little throwaway words like, oh, I'm just doing 3 miles, or I'm only plant-based on the weekends, those little words cut. So just remove them and embrace us as whole and as beautiful as we are today.
Kate, you're incredibly inspiring. I'm so happy I got to speak to you today. Just tell us again, where can we find you and where can we best connect with you?
The best thing is to go to my website, which is katestrong.global. All my links are there. And please write me an email, drop me a message, because I love to hear what other people are up to and how I can support you on your journey as much as you follow mine.
Great. Thank you so much. If you want to learn what works for your body, avoid injuries, and get fitter and faster and stronger in the best way for you, you need a personalized diet, which is based on your genes. Head over to vojo.health to find out more about our DNA tests and how it can help you on your sport performance journey.